Welcome back, Warriors, to another Battlefield 2042 video. I'm your commanding officer, Major Doodleman149, and in today's briefing I'll be giving you my personal opinions regarding the latest front in this conflict. Operation New Dawn is certainly a new dawn of something, but it isn't positive. I'll go over everything we've been given access to in this operation before providing my overall opinions. Let's get into this, troops. Similar to the last expansion review, I'll be looking over the field we're deployed to for Operation New Dawn, the new map Reclaimed. This field is much smaller than other areas we fought over, making infantry mobility less of an issue than on other fronts. Vehicles have more trouble navigating this front, so we aren't being offered much in the way of armored support. Even air transport have been barred from participating in this battle. Looking at the layout, Alpha objective consists of a derailed train strewn across the open ground. These busted train cars provide cover for infantry against the more fortified positions further into the front. Bravo objective is just south of Alpha and has a very similar display of cover, albeit utilizing rocks and other debris instead of train wreckage. This objective is more susceptible to fire from the center of the field than Alpha is, so holding this objective can be quite troublesome. Charlie is the only split objective on this front, consisting of two abandoned buildings, a defunct factory to the north and an abandoned warehouse to the south. Both buildings have roof access via zip lines, while Charlie 2 also has stair access from the east. Charlie 2 also has an anti-air emplacement on the roof. Delta is northeast of Charlie 1 and is an underground bunker complex. While the capture area is rather small, the bunker itself is larger than expected, allowing for flanking maneuvers and tight, close-quarters combat. Echo is the final objective and revolved around elevated walkways strung between some large oil tanks. This objective is the most vehicle-friendly, as it's the most open objective on the map. In terms of cover, there is limited cover outside of the oil tanks, since ample space has been cleared around the tanks to allow for vehicle movement. The next portion to look at is the new weapons. We only have 3 new weapons with this expansion, and using the term new may be too generous. Most of the offensive changes we've seen have been the inclusion of 3 new grenades: an anti-armor grenade that explodes on contact, mini grenades that do less damage but fly further and have a larger capacity, and a spring grenade designed to dislodge entrenched enemies. For the guns themselves, however, we first have the XCE bar, a sniper rifle that fails to cement a place for itself amongst its brethren. It fires slightly faster than the SWS-10, but has the worst bullet velocity I've seen aside from the NTW-50. Sniper rifles can only be so varied, but the XCE bar doesn't do enough to justify its existence. The Quartermaster has done a weapon workshop on the bar. Be sure to watch it after you're dismissed from here. The next weapon we have access to is the GEW-46. However, any soldier with any battlefield knowledge knows this is just the G36C assault rifle. It's got an impressive 5-shot kill range, but the lower rate of fire and ammo capacity limitations are what holds this weapon back. At its best, it's just another assault rifle. It's generic. The Quartermaster has also done a weapon workshop briefing on this weapon as well. The final weapon is the BFP-50, or again, as we know it to be, the Deagle. Its role is that of the M44 revolver, but with a faster rate of fire, much shorter range, and more recoil. We all know what it is. The rewards the brass is offering troops during this phase of the operation are less than adequate. Most of them are patchwork pieces of clothing, barely even armor. Nothing in this battle pass should be labeled as a reward, since nothing is worth acquiring. Looking at small changes the brass has implemented, there is a mixed bag to say the least. Dozer has received not only a lighter but larger shield, but he's also received more training in using it as well. You'll find Dozer to be faster and harder to deal with now. You'll also find that the assault rifles have been outfitted with softer metal barrels. These barrels overheat rather quickly and will cause the barrel to float all over the place after sustained fire. Somehow, once they cool, these barrels are capable of shooting straight again. Since the brass decided to cheap out, you'll find that using your assault rifle in fully automatic mode will now be less than accurate if you hold the trigger for too long. So what do I think of the season as a whole? Well, soldiers, this season is shit. I'll address each piece of shit in order of appearance. The map, while smaller and more chaotic, has far too many lines of sight to be fired upon from. Alpha and Bravo are both susceptible to the high ground of Charlie. The Charlie rooftops have barely any cover to speak from, so they can be shot into from 360 degrees most of the time. The Delta Hill above the bunker can shoot across the entire front essentially, and the cover on Echo is barely there. On top of that, the enemy and HQ both seem to deploy fresh troops to the same areas, so fresh soldiers can very frequently find themselves arriving at the front and being immediately killed by a hostile 2 feet from them. I would have some complaint about the specialist and vehicle added with this expansion, but it looks like the brass is out of money since we don't get either this go-around. The guns are all generic and unnecessary. As previously mentioned, the XCE bar struggles to differentiate itself from other sniper rifles we already have access to. Its addition is a net zero. The G36 and the Deagle are 2 of the most generic weapons of conflicts past, and the brass should be ashamed for touting them as anything new. We weren't born yesterday, DICE. The battle pass is always shit, but this one in particular is terrible. The increased spread on the assault rifles used in full auto basically completely defeats the purpose of using an assault rifle. I fear for what other corners will be cut with other weapon classes as well. And to think, this whole fiasco is touted as a fix for the overpowered RM68. Bullshit. However, my one bit of praise comes from the increased combat effectiveness of Dozer and his shield. Some soldiers may feel he is too strong at the moment, but any enemy can be overcome. You just need to outthink them. Overall, this season gets a 2 out of 10 for me. The weapons are boring, the map is underwhelming and poorly implemented, and everything else is also subpar. Overall, my sentiments still stand. This is a lackluster season made even less impressive by the lack of new additions to the operation and the recycling of old weapons held up as new innovations. Here's to hoping year 2 isn't complete shit, but after this expansion, your CO may finally retire. We have to see what the next expansion has to see if it's worth a re-enlistment. As of now, I regret mine. So hopefully you enjoyed this long look at Season 5 if you made it this far anyway. What do you think of Operation New Dawn? Is my assessment fair, or has your CO completely lost his shit? Permission to speak freely is granted. So if you thought your CO did an adequate job today in this briefing, then be sure to leave me a like and subscription to show the brass that I could do with a larger audience. So with that, I've been your CO, Major Doodleman 149, and until next time, you are all dismissed!